Evidently they don't. Offense, great drive.
Go, go!
Stop!
1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, bracing the elements here at One Jets Drive, but this is probably nothing like what the Jets are going to deal with in Buffalo, right, EA?
I feel pretty good out here. I brought the hat today and don't have the gloves. That's a veteran move by you. But, yeah, Sunday in Orchard Park, New York. You know it's going to be windy. It's going to be cold, and there's precipitation in the forecast.
Week 18, the first ever in NFL history for the Jets. They'll travel up to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills, who are fighting for the AFC East crown. They win the division with the win. The Jets have a chance to play spoiler in Orchard Park. You know, you talk about the gloves. I just want to bring this up. We did a live show there a couple of years ago, probably 2018, I think it was, and Vic Carucci was on the show, and he did the show with no gloves, and I remember just being shocked that he was fine with it, because I remember my teeth were chattering, and I was gloved up, hat up, I was ready to roll, and he was used to it. He was better.
Vic is a bad man. Anybody who can go down there on the field in Orchard Park without a glove and just hang out there and crazy wind chills and that wind just whipping on your face, you got some courage. And Vic, a long time NFL guy, reporter who's just tremendous and a friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show indeed. Right now taking a look at the Jets quarterbacks in the red jersey. The last test for Zach Wilson's rookie season comes Sunday against the Bills defense, first in the NFL in passing. So let's focus on the Jets running backs here, because the Bills 19th in the NFL in rush defense, and the Jets right now second in the NFL over the last 2 weeks in yards per game.
Yeah, great job by the offensive line, because the Jets have rushed for 150 yards in consecutive games and given up one sack or less. That's the first time they've done that in consecutive games since the 2015 season. 273 yards against Jacksonville, of course. We were talking about it last week, was an NFL high for the season. And then we were talking about, wow, this is a step up in class against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Third NFL-ranked rush defense, and they go out with Dan Feeney starting at center, and they rush for 150 yards. Michael Carter really got them out of the gate quickly with that 55-yarder.
Michael Carter right now remains in concussion protocol. We'll have to monitor his status. Tevin Coleman, though, rejoins the backfield. He missed last week's game on the reserve COVID list. He was activated yesterday along with Tyler Kroft. And then also, when you talk about this offensive line, a name to keep an eye on, Chuma Adoga, because he came in for George Fant, but so far he's been a did not practice throughout the week, so that's something to monitor as well.
Yeah, we got to take a look here, because the first practice day basically was yesterday. They were out here, and he was kind of a surprise DNP. Filled in quite well for George Fant. George Fant, tremendous year for the Jets. Unfortunately, he's on injured reserve, but he really showed them things at left tackle. He was one of the finer left tackles in the National Football League if you look at all those grading services.
Also, how important is it, George Fant, real quick, he's on injured reserve, not going to play Sunday.
Yep.
How important is it, do you think, for the Jets even just to commit to the run? Because when you look at Buffalo's losses, they've lost 6 games. In 4 of those games, they've allowed an 100-yard rusher to teams' opponents. And obviously you're going to point to the Derrick Henrys of the world, the Jonathan Taylors. But the Bills right now, when they lose, they allow a 100-yard rusher, so it seems.
Yeah, it's an outstanding point. Buffalo's defense is all predicated on keeping everything in front of them. They are very fast to the football. I think it was Tremaine Edmonds who was down in that first meeting. Buffalo came to MetLife Stadium. It was 45-17. Remember, Mike White started that game. They had 4 interceptions. So far this season, I believe they're tied for 3rd in the National Football League with 30 takeaways, and they do have arguably the top safety tandem in the National Football League with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. They're all over the place. You need balance against the Buffalo Bills. A little bit undersized comparably to other defensive fronts out there, but they flow to the football. They disguise well, and they play with a great tenacity, and they get the football. You got to protect it against these guys.
One last thing on the Jets' running game against the Bills' rush defense here. The Jets have good numbers at running back. Like, for example, when Tevin Coleman was down for a stretch, they have Michael Carter. When Michael Carter was down, Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson, Austin Walter, Michael Pirine, the guys on the active roster. last week Austin Walter had a nice game, but also the importance of, or the emergence of Ty Johnson just on checkdowns and screens feel like he really had a resurgence from a couple weeks ago when it seemed like he was in the doghouse of Jets fans because of the couple drops.
And there's the mullet Dan Feeney. He does not have any long sleeves out there. Coming from Southern California, playing with the Chargers last year, of course, starting 16
Indiana
games.
Guy, though. He's probably used to this.
A Midwestern guy. He doesn't mind it. He's got the hair to protect him. But you're right about the Jets. It's interesting when you look at their numbers. They're one of 8 teams in the National Football League who does not have a running back with more than 150 carries so far this season. Michael Carter leading the way. In fact, Carter's been so impressive this season despite missing a number of games down the stretch and going out early last week. He's got a chance to reach 1,000 yards from scrimmage against the Bills.
And also, we thought that the backfield would be running back by committee, similar to San Francisco. So far it has been, even though Michael Carter, before he got hurt with an ankle injury against the Dolphins at MetLife, started to emerge as that lead back, which brings us to Zach Wilson and the wide receivers. You mentioned Tremaine Edmonds being down against the Bills. Well, Tre'Davious White is out of the lineup now because he's somebody who got hurt a couple weeks ago, tore his ACL, will not play in this game, obviously. But this is still This is still a difficult challenge for the Jets and Zach Wilson, despite getting Jamison Crowder back in the lineup.
I agree with that. The Jets' best games so far this season have been at home. They beat a pair of first-place teams there early in the season at MetLife, taking down the Tennessee Titans when Zach Wilson really burst out, and then Mike White had a fabulous game against the Cincinnati Bengals last week against the defending Super Bowl champions. It looked like they had Brady's Bucks dead to rights, but Brady mounted that 18-point charge there late to break the Jets' hearts. So far this season, the Jets just one win on the road. That was in Houston a couple weeks ago, but there have been signs that they've been playing better on the road of late because not only the Houston game a couple weeks ago against Miami, much like the Tampa Bay game, the Jets came out firing, scoring early in that football game, were not able to hold on to that lead, and the Dolphins were able to escape with the victory. But, listen, Zach Wilson, this is a big-time challenge this week against the Bills defense. You talked about where they are across the board defensively. They're just very solid, and the communication with those guys, the veteran safeties, they lead the way, but no Tre'Davious White. So a little bit different there in the defensive backfield because Dane Jackson has been playing for the Bills. He can be beat on double moves. We might have saw that a little bit against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the last couple teams they faced, the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers, I don't think they were able to exploit the Jets secondary at all. Sans a Kyle Pitts long catch and run last week.
Yeah, and we'll have to monitor what the Jets receiving core looks like. So far, it seems like Elijah Moore remains on injured reserve. He hasn't been designated to return to practice yet, so let's just assume, for argument's sake, that he's down this weekend. The Jets will get Jamison Crowder back in the lineup. Seems like Braxton Berrios, who did not practice yesterday, will play. Just seems like he's working through a little quad injury after a great game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What kind of benefit or what kind of addition do you think Jamison Crowder will be to this offense, considering he plays a similar role, a little bit different, but a similar role to Braxton Berrios?
Yeah, you can get those guys out there on the field at the same time. Berrios has really broke out this season. The thing about Jamison Crowder that stands out is he's just a model of consistency. Despite missing a couple games here down the stretch, he leads the Jets in receptions again. If it finishes that way at about 7:30 in Buffalo, he'll lead the Jets in receptions for 3 consecutive years. This is a savvy vet guy. Listen, the Bills are going to counter with a very good nickelback in Teron Johnson, one of the better nickelbacks in the National Football League. But I think Mike LaFleur is going to try to get his best players on the field, and that to me means you might be seeing a lot of looks with Jamison Crowder and the aforementioned Braxton Berrios, who's really broke out this season.
The last point on this is, what do you want to see from Zach Wilson? 136 pass attempts, right, without an interception. And you mentioned the takeaway numbers earlier with the Bills. What are you hoping to see outside of not turning the ball over?
Well, it's funny. We started a year on this show talking about, hey, when are the Jets going to finally get out of the gate and start doing something early? Well, they've taken care of business Against the Philadelphia Eagles, it was 3 consecutive possessions that ended with touchdowns. Against Miami, they had that early lead where they scored on 3 of their first 4 possessions. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2 possessions, 2 touchdowns. So they've taken care of business early. Can they continue that in an environment that is going to be unlike any that Zach Wilson has played in so far this season? Again, we talk about the elements. It's going to be cold. It could be a wet ball. And you know this better than anybody. You spent a lot of time there the last 6 seasons going there with the Jets, is that those fans are right on top of you. So how is he going to handle the communications? Pre-snap is one thing, but also post-snap, because the Bills disguise as well as anybody.
That's a great point. I also wonder, we saw the Jets win the coin toss and receive.
Yeah.
We know Robert Saleh likes to defer to try to lap teams at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half. I wonder if this is another situation where if you win the coin toss, you just want the ball immediately. You want to get up and you want to try to put points on the board.
I think it kind of depends on what's going to happen with the win, too.
Yeah, that's a great point, because maybe you want to decide which way you're kicking in the first quarter. Really comes down to the fourth quarter. If you have a chance to win, which way do you want to be kicking the ball? And Eddie Pinheiro, your Florida guy so far.
Eddie P!
I don't want to jinx him. I mean, maybe I'm doing it by bringing it up, but he's perfect so far. He's been a nice addition for the Jets after dealing with some kicking problems that stem all the way back from training camp.
Shout out to Perry Mattern there.
Oh, okay, great. Let's shout him out. All right, so let's go to the defensive side of the ball for the Jets. We have to talk about the Jets DBs first, because Josh Allen threw for over 300 yards, completed 70% of his passes, threw for 3 touchdowns in this team's first meeting. He's coming off an awful performance, season worst performance, 17.0 quarterback rating, 3 interceptions, only 120 yards. That's a season low. You would imagine that he's in a position to rebound, right? Because he's such a good player. They have a good receiving core. What do you make of this matchup after the Jets secondary feels like it's taken a step up over the past couple weeks in particular?
Well, Brandon Eccles coming up with an interception of Tom Brady. I know much was made of what happened after the game. I thought Robert Saleh had a great answer about that. Let's put it to bed. Brandon Eccles has been a tremendous find for the Jets, getting him in the 6th round. How about Bryce Hall? We had him on the podcast this week, and Leger Douzable and I talked about with him about his next step in the development. He's getting his hands on the football as well as any cornerback in the National Football League right now. We're watching the Jets come together for their...
And there's Chuma Edoga, it looks like, right in front of Jeff Smith, number 70.
So that would be a positive sign for the Jets, getting him back in the practice. Hopefully he can participate in team activities out here today. But you talk about the secondary. Michael Carter II coming up with his first sack also happened to be against Tom Brady. But Michael Carter II could see some double duty this week, because it's not only probably Cole Beasley when the Bills are expecting zone coverage from the Jets, but when the Jets go man, the Bills might try to counter with Isaiah McKenzie, a quick, fast guy in the middle.
And Michael Carter, a very fast guy. He had a blazing 40. If we have the graphic of the rookie snaps, or basically the rookie numbers, I mean, the Jets rookies have been put into a position where they need to thrive, or they need to be a heavy contributor from an immediate point. And the latest one, Jason Pinnock, past 2 games. When you think about, he started his first game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, drafted to be a corner, plays at safety. He's making that transition, the Jimmy Ward position, as Robert Saleh calls it. Then he took the second most snaps at safety this past week behind Elijah Riley. Feels like he's starting to find a home back in the secondary.
Yeah, it's been an interesting transformation for him. Another day 3 pick. We just saw Bryce Hall disappear from our screen right there, but Hall has really jumped to me here in his second professional season. The next step for him, of course, what I was getting to before, is going to be the interceptions. I think it's just going to be a matter of time for him. But you mentioned Pinnock making the transition. I think the Jets have started, 9 safeties?
At least, yeah. It
9
might have reached double digits.
9 players at safety this year. So Pinnock's going to gain from this experience as well. And you got to give credit to Robert Saleh and his staff, and Joe Douglas as well, where a lot of people before the season said, you better make a move at cornerback. Let's bring in some guy off the street who is a name. And we talked about different names, and a lot of us thought, hey, that's probably the right way to go. And they said, no, we're going to play. We've invested in our young players at the cornerback position. We want to see how they handle themselves in you got to be really happy where you are at the cornerback position heading into the offseason. That's not saying you're not going to pick up another player or two, but Eccles starting the amount of games that he has, that's really something else. And the 2 interceptions, he's getting his hands on football as well. And remember that first game against the Bills, that game changed late in the first half. 2 Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs completions, and one of them came on a touchdown pass after Brandon Eccles went out with injury.
That's right, and Javelin Guidry slid over to the outside, who right now is the backup nickelback, and that leads us to the linebacker spot because the guys like C.J. Mosley, team MVP, the Curtis Martin team MVP, well-deserved. Quincy Williams, another great find for Joe Douglas. They're going to have a tough test not only against Josh Allen, who likes to run the ball, but it sure seems like the Bills are making it an emphasis to try and run the football more than they have, let's say, when these teams met in Week 10.
Well, you and I were talking off camera yesterday, and it was shocking to me when you read Josh Allen's stats. We know he can make it happen on the ground, but when you told me he had more than 700 rush yards this season, that's incredible. You basically have a linebacker, a transformer playing quarterback out there. And that's no slight as far as what he can do from the quarterback position, because he's really improved his accuracy over time, and he's a bona fide superstar in the National Football League. So you have to contend with the Bills sometimes treating Josh Allen as a running back. I wonder if they change the game plan. I want to get your thoughts on this. I wonder if they change the game plan a little bit, because they've already cemented their spot in the playoffs. Yes, they can win the division, and yes, you want to play at home as much as you can. But with that being said, I don't know if they want to put him too much in harm's way on those sweeps that they like to run with him.
I feel like it's a tough balance, right? Because you want to win the game to get a home playoff game, especially in that stadium where the fans are crazy. You would know better than anybody. And so I feel like maybe you don't put him in harm's way like that, but also I feel like if Josh Allen sees some green grass, he's going to try to make something happen.
You're right.
And at the end of the day, Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator, Sean McDermott, in the moment, they're not responsible for that. So I feel like maybe it's a conversation where it's like, hey, Josh, if you see an open field and there's one defender, slide. Don't try to hurdle over him.
He doesn't slide.
Yeah,
he's looking for guys to truck.
I know, but that's the thing. I feel like you're asking me about the game plan. Yeah. Maybe they don't put it in the game plan, but if he sees green grass, maybe he'll be a little more conservative, knowing that they have something to play for. But also, I feel like Josh Allen's not going to do that.
And how about this? Cincinnati, the word out of Cincinnati this week is Joe Burrow's not going to play. Now, if the Bills, in fact, do win the division, they can move up in the standings, because right now they're at 4, right? And Cincinnati, I believe, is at 3, so they could and the line shift in that game's been crazy, by the way. Cincinnati was a favorite, and then Joe Mixon's out. He's on the COVID list. And now Cleveland is a healthy favorite in that game, which is wild to me. But there's an interesting dynamic, in the league shifted this game to 4:25. Of course, you got the parallel with parallel kickoff time with the Patriots and the Dolphins. Patriots win this division if the Jets win, and
the Patriots win.
Yeah, and you don't want to help out the Patriots, but you do want to win this game. So that's kind of like a lose-lose.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think what's interesting in terms of Cincinnati is maybe this isn't a conversation if Joe Burrow doesn't tweak his knee at the end of that game on a quarterback sneak. So maybe that has something to play with it, especially considering last year his season was cut short. But we'll
Does
see.
Cincinnati play at 1?
I don't know the answer to that right now. I would look it up, but my fingers are frozen through the gloves. So
there's Elijah Vera Tucker, one of the Jets' fine rookies. What a draft class, and we're going to be talking about all off season about the 2021 draft class. Do you think the 4 offensive players should have a nickname? Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson, Michael Carter, and Elijah Vera Tucker. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I think the foundation is there to have a nickname. We'll see what happens. I'm a big year 2 guy, right?
Okay.
Like, let's see what you do in year 2. But AVT, 90.0 PFF grade, highest among rookies, interior offensive line, second in the NFL, interior offensive line. Shaq Mason, we talked about the Patriots. He was number 1, 92. But AVT's continued to just progress, and all the way back from training camp. Remember, he had that pec strain. He's made it through the whole season, knock on wood. There's no wood around us, but knock on wood that he makes it through one final game, and he's been a bright spot. And really, this entire rookie class, that's a good sign to see Michael Carter back on the practice field. And
his numbers after contact have just been ridiculous this year.
You know what's funny too is he has the same, I don't remember the exact metric, but it's him and Nick Chubb, and number one is Javonte Williams, another rookie and his former teammate at UNC.
Yeah, the only thing I think that you could have asked, that you want to see, I guess, more in year two, is you just want to see these guys more on the field. Sometimes it's just a tough break. You can't do anything. You get a concussion. You come out there and hopefully you pass protocol and whatever and things like that. And you want to see these three guys on the field together. Zach Wilson has been very good here down the stretch of his rookie season. Elijah Moore, it was kind of like he really broke out midway point when we saw the other quarterbacks in there, and Zach Wilson out with the PCL sprain, and then Michael Carter been in and out down the stretch a little bit.
This might be a bad comparison, but in 2017, talk about rookie classes that kind of changed the culture, or
are you going to New Orleans?
I'm going to New Orleans.
Ryan
Ramczyk, that was a great call by you. Ryan Ramczyk, all-pro right tackle for the New Orleans Saints. Then you're talking about Alvin Kamara in the third round. Pretty sure Trey Hendrickson was a part of that class as well. Marcus Williams, the safety. He's a very good player for the Saints.
He might be a free agent.
He might be a free agent.
I just throwing that out there.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about the potential free agents when the time is right. But it does feel like that class, obviously they had Sean Payton and Drew Brees already in place, but that kind of turned around or kind of rejuvenated that franchise. Obviously, C.J. Mosley yesterday, talking to the media, talked about the culture being installed here with Robert Saleh. And I feel like potentially these four guys, even guys like Michael Carter the second in the fifth round, Brandon Eccles in the sixth round, right now you're looking at a group that really could change the culture here and rejuvenate the franchise.
Yeah, it was just a huge draft, and these guys continue to pay dividends, and they should be here for a long time. And you're looking at 2022 as we watch Zach Wilson get warmed up here during individual drills. You're going to have two top 10 picks. You're going to have two top 10 picks. You have two picks in rounds 2, 4,
top 40.
Yeah, right. And then rounds 2, rounds 4, rounds 5.
The blueprint is there.
Yeah.
The blueprint is definitely there, which leads us to kind of what we talked about before. C.J. Mosley, Curtis Martin team MVP, very well deserved. So let's hit some superlatives of our own.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I love it.
Overall, how about a most improved player that you can see?
We got to go veteran or rookie?
It could be either.
Give me the guy we're looking at right now. I got to go with Zach Wilson. You think about where the season started. 6 sacks in Carolina. He's hit 10 times. Then in week 2, just really tough performance against New England. Intercepted 4 times in a home loss to the Patriots. Week 3, they went to Denver. Weren't able to muster up a point. Now you see him down the stretch since the PCL sprain. I keep on coming back to this figure, this total. 8 touchdowns, 3 turnovers, and you mentioned it before, Ethan, 136 consecutive passes without an interception. This is a first-year player, and the personnel is changing around him. Wow, he's really progressed, and we talked about the fast starts. The Jets, early on in the season with Zach Wilson and company, everybody's like, you can't get anything done in the first quarter. Now people are having a hard time keeping this team off the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I'm going to go the veteran route, but a guy that's also new to the team, Quincy Williams, because this is a guy where he first came to the Jets, and you're like, okay, he's got speed, right? He obviously can lay the lumber, and then as we've progressed through the season, it really feels like he's taken his game to a new level next to C.J. Mosley, where the Jets start to trust him. And I spoke to Quinnen Williams yesterday in a year-in-review interview, our exit interviews, and he said, feels like when Quincy came, he was kind of like Quinnen's older brother, and now he's Quincy Williams. He's his own player, which leads us to final superlatives. The biggest surprise on offense, EA, goes to whom?
I got to go to George Fant. Here's a guy who really found his home this year at the left tackle position. Remember, he started the year competing at right tackle with Morgan Moses, who we also just saw on the screen here a second ago. But George Fant with the Seattle Seahawks, considered more of a raw player, a great athlete who played all over the line there with the Seahawks, never really cemented his status as a frontline player for whatever reason. But after Mekhi Becton went down in week 1, he shifts over to left tackle, and we talk about his performance. He was tremendous this year, and he's got you excited about the prospects ahead because the Jets want to build this thing on both sides of the line of scrimmage. George Fant's going to be a part of this.
Yeah, I definitely agree that George Fant would have been my answer had you not said it. I'm sticking on offense because this is the offensive biggest surprise of the year. I'm going Braxton Berrios because I feel like coming into this year, we knew that he was a very reliable punt returner, and it feels like throughout, especially the back half of the season, he's developed from a reliable player to more of a weapon for this offense where not only is he catching the football, he's running the football, he had the kick return for a touchdown. So it feels like he's somebody who's definitely developed his game over the back half of the season, which leads us...
As you just said that, I'm trying to take a sneak peek at the receivers. Have you seen Berrios out here?
I have not seen him yet,
okay,
but I'll take a look after the show, which leads us to our biggest surprise on defense, EA, when you're going with who?
Well, you talked about Quincy Williams before, who's had, 100-plus tackles. He leads the team in tackles for loss. He also is tied with Ashton Davis with 3 forced fumbles for the team lead. But should I go on the outside and take Bryce Hall?
Sure. I mean, I think we would agree he's the – if that I was going to do like a second-year player who took the biggest
All right,
lead,
fine.
But we both – let's just do that now because we both agree that it is Bryce Hall.
Yes, but the Quincy, as far as defense, for me it would be Quincy. I mean, because you didn't know what you were the Jets were excited when they got him, but I don't think anybody could have projected what he's done out here.
I'm going to go to Brandon Eccles because you talked about it earlier, 6th-round pick. You're like, well, what are you going to expect out of this guy, right? Robert Saleh called the rookies hell on wheels. They're fun to watch. And Brandon Eccles has paid off so far for this Jets team as a rookie, as a 6th-round pick out of Kentucky. And then also, to wrap it up here, we talked about Bryce Hall, right? You mentioned him earlier. I would say that he's the winner of the second year, the sophomore leap. And he's a guy ranked 2nd in the NFL. Saw this today. The Jets tweeted it out. And forced incompletions in the NFL.
Yeah, and sometimes teams aren't thrown his way because his coverage has been so good, but still he's got the PDs that are up there. The next step for him is going to be interceptions next season. We talked about the value Joe D got in the 5th round. Well, that's really coming to fruition because this guy's playing like a 1st-round pick.
I'll never forget Phil Savage after the draft said, we're betting on the future with Bryce Hall, and so far – That's come true for Phil Savage.
I'm betting on the future of the Jets right now.
Oh, all right. That's how we're going to wrap up the practice today. The season finale of practice today presented by SiriusXM. It's been another year in the books here, right? In the studio, out on the balcony, no virtual shows, thankfully, unlike 2020. But that's how we put a bow on the 2021 season of practice today presented by SiriusXM. But we will see you Sunday for Pregame Central presented by Uber Eats.
Go. There you go.
Have a day today, dog. Offense, great drive.
Go, go.
Stop.
1, 2, 3.